Alright everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another episode of review for The Walking Dead. This is going to be Season 7, Episode 9, entitled Rock in the Road. Now before we get started, boom, what's up, t-shirt, how the hell are you doing? I don't know if you guys can completely see it, but it says make baseball fun again. Yeah, alright, well, there you go. That's enough of that. You seen the t-shirt, and let's go ahead and get right into it. My phone's not on silent. It wasn't prepared at all. Alright guys, so The Walking Dead has finally returned, and it was back with a bang, so to speak. And it was really cool. There was a big walker killing scene in The Walking Dead this time that was absolutely amazing. It really was. Like, there's no other way to put it. And to basically start the episode off, alright, first of all, this is obviously a video review, an episode review, whatever the hell you want to call it. But it was kind of, I don't even know how to explain it. It was Father Gabriel, and something's going on. I'm not exactly sure what is going on yet, but I am going to give my predictions for that in my prediction video coming up this Thursday. But as far as we know right now, it's just weird. He was on his post, and of course at the end of last episode, there was somebody basically sneaking over, sort of sneaking up on Alexandria with binoculars, looking at Gabriel and everything like that at the end of the episode, last episode. And it sort of resumes with that, it doesn't really show the person this time, but sort of resumes with Father Gabriel at night at his post, and he reads his Bible for like a couple of seconds and leaves his post. We don't exactly know what he's doing, and he basically goes off to the armory / the pantry, where they keep their food and stuff, and he basically takes all of the food and all of the weapons and loads them up in crates and then puts them in a car and then drives away. And as he drives away, a shadowy figure basically comes up in the passenger side of the car. Now, I didn't see this last night in the episode right off the bat. I did not see the shadowy figure sort of pop up, so he's definitely with somebody. I didn't see that last night. I didn't catch it, but I caught it this morning when I was watching the episode again. And it's definitely interesting. I'm not sure if a lot of people caught it, but it's definitely there. So there's definitely a shadowy figure there, and I believe that it's probably the leader to this new junkyard group that we get to meet near the end of the episode, and hoping to learn a lot more about in next week's episode. So with that being said, everybody, that sort of it leaves us with the question is, what's Gabriel doing? We've had talks about a member of the group betraying them, betraying the Alexandrians for a couple of months now. We never really knew who it was or anything like that, but this could be it. What if Gabriel is betraying people at Alexandria and, giving them their supplies? Or does he have an ulterior motive, Did he take all the food because he thought maybe the saviors would come and take it, and he didn't want them to take any more of their weapons or their food? Did he do it for the good of the group? We don't know yet. You know what I mean? We don't have this answer to our question. But with that being said, everybody, there was a journey that Rick and the group went on this episode, and it was insane. It really was. It's sort of like, it was like an up and down episode. It was sort of like what was put out on The Talking Dead last night when they were talking about it. It was sort of an episode where you had a win, and then you had a loss, and then you had a win, and then a loss, and then a win and a loss for the main group there, for Rick. And, that's definitely true. Alright, so when the episode resumes, it's back with Rick, Maggie, Sasha, Carl, Michonne, Taro, Rosita, Daryl, Jesus, and they all meet with Gregory in his office, and they basically try to get him to help, them attack the saviors. They're trying to get him to join them. You know what I mean? That's what they're trying to do. And no matter what, I'm not going to go over it in great detail. Basically, Gregory being a big old dickbag, calling Rick like Ricky and Richie, and calling Maggie Margaret and stuff like that. Just being an absolute asshole. As he usually is, the actor who plays him, he does a terrific job at making you hate him. But either way, he basically said no. So that was a fail right there. They eventually went out. And another win that encountered right after that was basically the community of the Hilltop, not Gregory, just the community came up to Maggie and basically offered their services to Maggie, basically saying, do you think we could really beat the saviors? And Maggie says yes. And then they basically agree to start training and agree to help ultimately. So, it was a fail, when they came to Gregory, and then it was a win when they came to the community answering to Maggie. So that was cool. They basically just said, we owe you our lives. Countless times you've saved us, And we thank you for that, and we're ready to start training to fight the Saviors, because we can't live like this. Next, we get to continue with where the sneak peek actually showed us that Jesus had one of the Savior's walkie-talkies, and they could basically listen in on them at any time, just, see what they were doing. And that's when they ultimately, Jesus basically said, let's go see King Ezekiel. That was a sneak peek. That's where it kind of resumed right there. So that's definitely kind of around where I thought it was going to be. So I didn't think it would be so soon that they went to the kingdom, and then the rest of the episode was like not at the kingdom. I was thinking it would be more towards the end of the episode where they sort of got the answer from Ezekiel. But it definitely didn't play out like that, and it was an interesting way to do it, too. I thought it was cool. Anyways, guys, I thought this episode was really great, because of the encounter of characters that we've never seen encounter before, including Rick and Ezekiel. They get to go to the kingdom, and I thought that was a very interesting play right there. Ultimately, unfortunately, Ezekiel, said no to Rick, basically saying, there's a peace with the Saviors. The peace is uneasy, but it's a peace nonetheless, and we have to try to hold on to that no matter what. Anyways, they ultimately get that failed answer, and they are definitely distraught about it. But good news is that Ezekiel offered Daryl a place to stay, because he obviously can't go back home to Alexandria. They'd be looking for him there. And he pointed out that he has a deal with the Saviors that they do not step inside of his gates, ever. And, with that being said, if that's really true, if they don't step inside of the gates, Daryl would be completely safe there. They wouldn't think to check there. They don't even know that they know each other at this point. And it's definitely a smart idea, and that's ultimately where Daryl ends up staying as they go for the gate. Basically, Rick explains to Daryl, you have to stay there. It's the smartest plan, and if you can somehow convince Ezekiel to join us in fighting the Saviors, you could do that as well. And he joked about it, saying you could basically stare him into submission, whatever it takes. He left Daryl there to protect him, but at the same time, he left Daryl there to hopefully try to convince Ezekiel to fight with him, essentially. And there has to be something that happens, soon to the kingdom, so that Ezekiel will realize this isn't going to be the way to live. This peace lasted this long, it's not going to keep lasting, you know what I mean? Something has to happen for Ezekiel to see it that way, to see it through Rick's eyes and to see it through everybody else's eyes. Something has to happen, and I have a feeling that it might happen next episode. I'm not sure, but I think it might, and that would definitely be cool. But with that being said, they leave Daryl there at the kingdom, of course, and they did meet back up with Morgan, and Morgan now actually knows about Glenn and about Abraham, and of course about Olivia and Spencer and everybody that they've killed. He now knows about it. Of course, Carol is off still in her own little world. They basically he told Rick that she basically didn't want to be found. She wanted to be left alone. And she was there, she got repaired because she got fixed up because she got shot by the Saviors, and he explained to them that he had to kill one of them, so Rick knows that he can definitely do it now if he needs to, which is good. It's a step for Morgan, it definitely is. I'm all for life is all precious and stuff like that, but sometimes it needs to be done, and Morgan has to understand that, and I have a feeling that he's starting to understand that now. I just want Carol to come back. I really do. I just want the old Carol to come back. Maybe a little toned down, but this new, bitch, pussy Carol is getting old real quick. I will say that. But anyway, they leave the kingdom, okay? And they're basically on the road going back to Alexandria. But again, this is where we start to see a sneak peek sequence that we seen last week, actually on Thursday, that I did actually go ahead and review in my prediction video about that sneak peek. Basically, this is when Rick and Michonne sort of seen something off in the distance in the binoculars, and that whole sequence continued from there. It was basically a trap of dynamite set to a switch. Basically, it was to control a walker herd. We have no idea what it was from, then, but now we do. It was to control a walker herd that was currently moving through that area, and that explosion was to help contain it, basically. And basically what Rick and his people wanted to do is they wanted to disarm this trap, take the explosives, for themselves, and use them, use those explosives to fight the Saviors. So use their own stuff against them, because At this point, we know they don't have guns, they don't have ammunition or anything to fight back against the Saviors, so Rick and his group have to take anything that they can get at this point, you know? It's just, it's what has to be done, you know? And anyway, they end up doing it. Rosita actually steps up and obviously disarms all the explosives. She ends up coming across one that doesn't really seem to look right to her, so she leaves it behind and it ends up actually exploding and killing a whole bunch of walkers at the end of the walker sequence when they actually started to get away. And anyway, they pack up all this dynamite, put it in the back of the car, and this is when a sequence of events happened between Rick and Michonne. They basically got in to the two of the cars that were basically lined up for the tripwire of the explosives, and the wire was still attached, right? Just no explosives. And they drove down the two roads right through the walker horde, and this wire was basically cutting every single walker in half, basically at the waist or at the feet or at the ankles or, you know, whatever. It was amazing, man. It really was. It was absolutely stunning to watch. It was a really cool sequence. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was a brilliant idea, you know, for them to sort of ride both cars at the exact same time and just go through the horde. And then, like I said, when they got out of the cars, got into the main truck and actually started to drive away, the explosive that Rosita claimed, quote unquote, looked funny, she didn't really want to take the risk of taking it. It's a good thing she didn't, because it just exploded randomly in the background. And then it was a cool little funny quote from Rosita, and she was like, well, I told you it looked funny. And that's when that scene left off right there. So I thought that was a really cool, really awesome walker fighting sequence. We haven't really seen one in a long time where they actually fought walkers. And we didn't really see any hand-to-hand combat necessarily, but we seen explosions, and we seen just a really cool scene with Rick and Michonne sort of getting back together in a way, you know, clicking back together in a sense that they're now capable fighters again. You know, that we didn't really see that in this first half of the season. It was always Michonne sort of doing her own thing, and Rick was ultimately bowing to Negan, you know, and doing this whole thing because he didn't want anybody else to die. But now, with this scene, they're back together. You know what I mean? They're back together, their strength is back together, and they took out pretty much an entire walker horde with 2 cars and a little wire. I thought it was brilliant. I really did. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, all the while doing this, they were trying to rush it because they heard Negan on the walkie-talkie basically saying, I wonder if Daryl went back to Alexandria like the dumb animal that he was. I thought that was a brilliant quote. And he basically dispatched a search party to go to Alexandria and see if Daryl was there. So they had to rush against time to basically get back there in time to see and, you know, greet the Saviors there at the gate, you know, and basically assure them that they didn't have Daryl. Because it's a good thing they left Daryl at the kingdom, or else, you know, they'd probably be screwed right now. But either way, that's what they were doing too. They were rushing against time to do it, which I thought was cool. Back in Alexandria now, Rick sort of goes undercover at this point and innocently wonders, you know, why they are back so soon for the tribute when the Saviors greet them at the gate. And Simon basically tells them, you know, they're not there for the tribute, they're looking for Daryl. And Rick ultimately plays dumb, you know, very convincingly. I mean, he is an actor. Andrew Lincoln is an actor, so I mean, he does a great job at doing it, obviously. And you know, he basically says, you know, I didn't know Daryl escaped until you just told us. And the Saviors, anyway, they search Alexandria and they come up empty. They absolutely destroy the place unnecessarily, like they tipping over shelves and stuff, which obviously Daryl wouldn't be hiding, you know, in a shelf. It doesn't make sense. They would just being assholes at the same time, you know, looking for Daryl, right? And anyway, Simon notes that the pantry shelves are bare, ultimately finding out about Gabriel and everybody, you know, taking... or not everybody, but I guess just Gabriel taking the supplies and stuff and the food. Of course, Rick, you know, and Simon, they don't really know what happened to the food. Rick just says, you know, we're getting low on food. There's a lot of people here, and we're trying to find some stuff. But ultimately, we're trying to find some stuff for you guys the next time you come here. And, you know, Simon sort of appreciates that to an extent. You can kind of see that he does. And when they finally leave, Rick's just like, what the hell happened to the pantry? Where's all of our shit? And this is actually when Rick finds out about Gabriel taking all the supplies, or, you know, whatever he's done with them. And Rosita here accuses Gabriel of stealing their goods, basically just running off with our shit. And Rick actually here defends Gabriel. I thought this was a brilliant move by Rick, because he's gotten to a point where he trusts Gabriel. You know, he's obviously letting him taking care of, you know, Judith and everything like that before. And he trusts Gabriel now, and he basically defends Gabriel, saying that he wouldn't do that to us. And Rick finds Gabriel's Bible actually on the pantry floor, which could have been left there, you know, from Gabriel rather. I mean, that's obviously what happened, but I'm still not exactly sure what's going on with Gabriel. You know, did he actually betray them? I don't really think so. I think he had definitely an ulterior motive there. But he left a note on the floor in his Bible that basically says boat, B-O-A-T. And that's actually referring back to the boathouse where Aaron and Rick in the previous episode found all of the supplies. When we first got to see whoever was watching them, you know, watching them. Anyway, whatever. They went back to the boathouse. You know, there's obviously a connection between the boathouse and, of course, Alexandria and Gabriel going missing. And, of course, it seems kind of odd, you know, that the first time we seen the person who was watching Rick and Aaron was at the boathouse, and now Gabriel is gone when he arrived at the gates of Alexandria, and now Gabriel's gone with him, and he left them a note basically saying boat. It's definitely kind of odd there. You know, I don't know how Gabriel exactly made the connection between, you know, him and the boathouse. I'm not exactly sure, but nonetheless, it's a connection. And I'm excited to see, you know, what's happening next episode. But anyway, they go off to the boathouse, you know, Aaron, Rick, Michonne, of course, and just, you know, some of their group. They go to the boathouse and they end up actually finding a pathway, or not really a pathway, but, you know, footprints and stuff like that, leading them to another area, basically like an overgrown urban parking lot. And then a large group all of a sudden quickly surrounds them and basically holds them at gunpoint. And we're not exactly sure who this group is. I mean, we've heard a lot of things about this new group called the Junkyard Group. We're not still, you know, we're not too sure, you know, what they are, you know, what's their real motive, you know, and stuff like that, and what's their connection between Gabriel and stuff. We have no idea at this point. But Rick and his group gets surrounded by a lot of them. Like, I don't even know exactly how many. I would like to say 100, but maybe that's pushing it. I'm not sure. But either way, they all have guns, and they're all holding him at gunpoint. And at the end of it, Rick smiles. So this smile that Rick is, you know, basically doing right now, even though he's being held at gunpoint against his will, with 100 or so people around him, just absolutely surrounding him and his group, it's not really a good situation, but he's smiling because he thinks that maybe he could probably turn this around and use these people and get this community and get this group to join him in fighting the Saviors. And I think that's exactly what he plans on doing next episode. So with that being said, everybody, that was the conclusion of this week's episode, the mid-season premiere of The Walking Dead. Again, this was season 7, episode 9, entitled Rock in the Road. I thought that it was a very, very good episode. It definitely had good vibes around it. Daryl is safe now in the kingdom. I'm definitely happy about that. Hopefully that maybe he can convince Ezekiel, you know, to join them. I want to say hopefully something happens to Ezekiel and his men or something that would convince Ezekiel to help them. But at the same time, that sounds sick, you know, in a way. You know, I don't want something really bad to happen to one of them. But at the same time, I think that's going to be the only way that he finally realizes that something has to be done about the Saviors. And I think that's the only way that he's going to want to join Rick in helping him, you know? So I think that's definitely what's going to happen, but I'm not sure. Either way, though, this was Season 7, Episode 9, entitled Rock in the Road. If you guys want to tune into my predictions for next week's episode of The Walking Dead, this is going to be Season 7, Episode 10, entitled New Best Friends. Now, I think this title leads towards Rick and his group being new best friends with this junkyard crew. Are we going to get to see Gabriel next episode? That's definitely a question that should be answered next episode. I hope that it is. Did Gabriel betray them? We're not too sure. You know what I mean? Did he just get scared, or did he take those supplies and basically try to maybe offer the junkyard group all of these supplies and stuff to help them fight Negan and the Saviors? Maybe that's a play. You know what I mean? We have no idea at this point, but I'm excited to find out more. And I think that this next half of the season is not necessarily going to go by too quickly in terms of like the all-out war storyline. I think it's going to go by a little bit slower, which I'm totally okay with. I think that a majority of the all-out war storyline is actually going to take place in the premiere of season 8, which we all know is the 100th episode of The Walking Dead. So they're probably going to do something pretty damn big, and that's definitely going to be exciting. But with that being said, everybody, thank you all so much for watching, and that is all my predictions for right now. That's all. I mean, well, I guess not just my predictions, but I mean, that's all my predictions for right now in terms of, you know, what's going to happen to Gabriel and stuff like that. If you guys want to see more, I will try to elaborate a little more this Thursday, my predictions for this week's upcoming episode of The Walking Dead. Again, Season 7, Episode 10, entitled New Best Friends. And until then, everybody, make sure you guys go check out some of my other content. I am primarily a gaming channel. I do post gaming videos. Now and again, I'm definitely going to post them more often now, since I'm getting back into YouTube right now. But with that being said, thank you all so much for watching. I will see you guys on the next video, and until then, take care, everybody. Bye.
I've been told that time will heal all our wounds and our sorrows too. No more clouds, no more rain. I need sun to ease my pain. Before this night is over, I will guide you